Here's the full guide to making a super hard rage beat for Yeat on FL Studio. I'm not going to waste any time in this video, so let's jump straight in. Start by setting your tempo to 140 to 150 beats per minute range. Now open your channel rack, open a plugin of your choice, and load up a polyphonic synth preset. Polyphonic just means a synth that can play multiple notes at one time, rather than monophonic, which can only play one note at a time. This preset needs to use some form of saw wave for that Yeat sounds that we're looking for. Now let's go into the piano roll and add our notes in. By the way, I always create my full beats prior to creating my videos, which is the reason why all the MIDI notes are already in this pattern. I just prefer to do this so I can walk through exactly how I made the beat, rather than trying to explain my constantly changing thought process while I progress through the production process. The fundamental part of creating a Yeat beat is the use of power chords. This involves playing the root note and the perfect fifth. Here's the best way of describing this. In every beat, you have a key and a mode or scale. I'm using the key of F and the minor mode, which, if we change the scale highlighting up here in view and scale highlighting, we can change to F and minor. We can now see all of the notes in the scale, which are highlighted in a lighter grey tone. These are the notes that we can use in our melody. Using any of the other notes will make our melody sound out of key. If we start on the note C sharp, which is technically called D flat in this specific example, don't worry, it isn't massively important whether we call it C sharp or D flat. We can then draw other notes in above or below to create chords. Skipping a note and then adding a note, then skipping a note and adding another note. We will create a major chord in this example, but removing the middle note will give us a power chord. A power chord is simply defined as the root note and the perfect fifth, called the perfect fifth because if the root note is the first note in the scale, this would be the second, this would be the third, this would be the fourth, and this would be the fifth. Here I've drawn in this progression of power chords. I've then simply added in these top line notes to complement the chords. And here's how this melody will sound. Now let's take the root notes of these chords and press Ctrl and C to copy these. Then let's open up a bass preset and paste these notes in. We want to use an electronic bass sound for these beats, which we can find in a ton of plugins. Here's how this bass line sounds combined with the chords. I then took a bell preset and added in this counter melody, just using notes in the scale which complement the original melody. I then added another counter melody using a lead. Now let's add a monophonic lead to play the top notes, which were the perfect fifths from the first two chords. And finally, I've taken 3 ARP and sequencer presets. These presets will add movement and rhythm to our melody. To break these down, an arpeggiator automatically breaks down chords into rhythmic melodic patterns by playing the individual notes in a sequence. So instead of playing the full chord simultaneously, the arpeggiator takes the notes in the chord and plays them one after another following a specific pattern or rhythm. A sequencer is very similar. However, instead of focusing on adjusting the pitch, it just plays back the entire set of notes in a predetermined order. Now, these plugins are pretty CPU heavy, so let's export them as audio files to save our devices from overheating. Let's right click up here, go to render as audio clip, and then click start. Then let's toggle off the sound from the ARPs and sequencers, and also this counter melody. Then let's right click up here and render as another audio clip. Now let's route these two patterns to a mixer track. I've used mixer track 11. And let's add some effects. Let's start by adding some distortion to give an aggressive Yeat sound to the beat. I've used a decapitator, but you can use wave shaper or fast distortion. Then let's also add a little reverb to make this wider. Make sure to increase the low cut to stop the reverb from applying itself to the bass portion of the sample, as this just never sounds good. And finally, let's add a fruity parametric EQ too. We're using a high pass filter here to cut the sub 100 Hz frequency from the sample. This is just to make room for our new 808 bass line, which we're going to add now. We can then drag the patterns into the playlist. I've decided to pitch these up by 3 semitones, or 300 cents, which means that we're now in the key of G sharp minor rather than F minor. This is because G sharp is 3 notes above F. You can see at the bottom of the playlist, I've added in the patterns we're using to help visualize what's going on in the beat. Here's how this melody sounds all together. Now let's drag in our 808 sound and add a bass line. Here I've used the Spins 808. We're then going to click on the wrench tool and cut this by itself to stop the notes from overlapping. We're also going to change the volume envelope to decrease all of these parameters and fully increase hold. This will make sure that the 808 cuts out as soon as the note ends, rather than tailing over and again clashing with the other notes being played. Let's copy and paste the root notes from the chords into the 808, and remember to pitch this up by 3 semitones as we're now in the key of G sharp minor. We can also go up here, go to view, and change scale highlighting to change the root note from F to G sharp. Then we just need to cut this up into a rhythm that we like the sound of, and also add other sounds. Here you can see I've added a different 808 bass sound at the end of the pattern. Remember to go into your mixer track and go to the master track and add a fruity soft clipper to again give this track that distorted sound. Here's how this 808 pattern sounds. Now let's add the rest of our drums. We'll start with a clap. Then we'll add a 2-step hi-hat pattern with some rolls. A counter snare to add bounce. An open hat or crash sample. And another open hat on the 4th beat. Also, if you're wondering what this automation clip is, it's just to cut the mix level of the EQ for the melody. At the beginning, we have no 808 playing, so we want the bass line to play from the melody. However, once we've brought the 808 in, we want the bass to cut out from the sample. So we'll simply increase the mix level of the EQ so that the high pass filter applies to the melody. Now for arrangement, let's use the full melody for the intro and also the hook, and the less busy melody for the verses. We can also cut out certain sections of the drums and melody to stop the beat from sounding repetitive and boring. And here's how the final beat will sound. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and also let me know in the comments what type of videos you want to see next.